What's going down, everybody? It's your boy, that guy, my high, tuning back in for another reaction. This time we got another one of them crazy, just, criminals busting themselves videos. I think we did, it was like 3-4 days ago, we did 8 ways that criminals busted themselves. This is 8 more ways that criminals busted themselves. So, yeah, like a sequel to that one. Anyways, before we jump into that, man, shout out to all the members of the channel. We're going to run through all the names, give a big shout out to all of them individually by name. Creatively Insane, Carrie Huffman, Ryan Parks, Nicole Massey, Token Tug, Casey Girl, Aaron DiCarlo, Taylor. You already know what's up, Taylor. I can't say your last name, but shout out to Taylor. Mama Dukes, Misty Summers, Lynn Willow, Driver Thoughts, Matt Creeker, Lynn, Amy Jane Doe, Liz, Nugget, My Hood Life, and Gary Willis, man. Appreciate y'all for doing what you do. Appreciate you for being who you are. And yeah, thank you for rocking with your boy. If you guys want a personal shout out just like that, go ahead and hit that join button down below. You know what I'm saying? Yes, I talk with my hands a lot. You know what I mean? Wow, like I'm doing karate. But yeah, hit that join button down below. If not, just hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification. That's free 99, baby. And let's run this shit up. You know what I mean? Let's run it up. Let's run it up. Yeah. Don't ask why I just did that. That was cool sound effects, I guess. But let's do this, man. We got 8 more ways criminals busted themselves. Let's go.
Hey everyone,
Nigel
and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone. Okay, so right off the bat, let's just acknowledge the elephant in the room. We told you last week that we were going to take a break from doing dumb and weird crime stories since we'd already done 2 Thursday videos in a row like that. Well,
but they're great.
That was totally our intention, and we did start on a couple of new things this week. However, with being distracted by our ongoing issues with YouTube and some other unforeseen problems, we realized a little too late that we'd bit off more than we could chew for the stories we had initially planned to cover. That being said, because we still wanted to make sure we stuck to our usual schedule as promised, and because we were still sitting on a ton of these crazy stories from the research for the last couple of videos, we decided we'd do one more list like this rather than not releasing anything at all. So, without further ado, here are 8 more ways criminals busted themselves. Well, it's clear that a lot of bad decision-making went on in this first story. Let's just say that even for teenagers, it's hard to understand the thought process of these 2 suspects. According to reports, it all started sometime late on the evening of March 31st, 2013, when the 2 female suspects entered a burger joint just outside the Swedish city of Halmstad. The teens were wearing crudely homemade black ski masks, which they had made by cutting eye holes out of a couple of toques, and were also armed with a kitchen knife and hammer. Upon walking up to the restaurant's main counter, the suspects threatened the staff, telling them to put the money from the cash register into a bag that they had brought. At least one Swedish news source we came across translated the teens' exact threat as, quote, "Give me the money or I'll chop you." After telling the suspects to calm down, the employee behind the counter complied with their demands, opening the register and putting the money in the bag. Upon receiving the cash, the teens quickly fled the scene, making off with a total of 2,420 Swedish krona, worth about $370 US at the time. Unfortunately for the suspects, when police arrived at the scene, they brought a canine unit with them, who were able to follow their scent back to a nearby apartment. This just so happened to be the place where one of the 2 teens lived with their grandparents. Now, you might be thinking, this in and of itself...
They wrapped up grandma and grandpa back in this shit? And y'all niggas need to take a shower. If this dog was able to literally smell y'all niggas all the way back home, y'all funky, you know what I'm saying?
So
I know they got good ass...
Plenty of robbers might not have anticipated being followed by police dogs. Well, here's where things started to get pretty ridiculous. According to reports, upon arriving at the apartment where the suspects were staying, police allegedly found the bag that had been used in the crime just lying on the ground outside. In the bag were the 2 ski masks the teenagers had worn, as well as the kitchen knife that they had threatened the restaurant employees with. When police spoke to the 2 suspects, identified only as a 17-year-old girl and her younger cousin, they still denied any involvement in the crime. That's when police confiscated and searched their phones,
And found
only
the
to
picture.
discover that they had also taken several selfies together, dressed in the homemade ski masks, and brandishing the kitchen knife in a bathroom at the crime scene
Wow.
right before carrying out the robbery.
Wow.
Needless to say, the team
Bruh, how you can't be that dumb. You can't be that. Like, come on,
were
bro.
thoroughly busted at this point. For added certainty, though, the ski masks were forensically tested and were found to contain the two suspects' DNA.
Of course.
Despite the overwhelming evidence against both teens, under Swedish law, only the older of the two, the 17-year-old, was old enough to be charged in connection with the crime.
Wow.
While we couldn't find any information about the girl's subsequent trial, it's safe to say that things weren't looking too good for her in court.
I mean, it wasn't looking good for her, but I mean, at the end of the day, kind of still probably looked okay, because even though she was able to be charged as, with the crimes, she probably still had some sort of minor, not like minor influence situation, but like, her being a minor probably was still taken into account, because 17, you're still, in most places, still a child. So, so she probably got off pretty easy.
While we definitely wouldn't claim that there's a right way to commit vehicle theft, common sense would seem to dictate that there were certain things
none of us are gonna admit that there is a right or wrong way to do it, but I mean, there is a right way and a wrong way. Like, I wouldn't necessarily like that, but there's an efficient way and an inefficient way. You know what I'm saying? Or inefficient way to do it. I'm just saying.
But we shouldn't do if you actually want to get away with the crime. Maybe things like, calling the police and asking for help with your stolen vehicle. Alas, this is apparently a lesson one Washington state man had to learn the hard way. According to reports, it all started at around 5:30 a.m. on December 29th, 2009,
Sumner.
when an employee at a transportation company in the city of Sumner, Washington, witnessed a man stealing a silver 1985 Chevy pickup truck from his company's storage yard. The crime was reported to police, but by the time they arrived, the suspect and the vehicle were gone. Fortunately for both the owner of the vehicle and investigators, though, they wouldn't have to wait very long to track the vehicle down, as just after 12:30 p.m. that day, they received two 911 calls in close succession that blew the case wide open. The first call was from another employee of the transportation company, who told police that they thought they had spotted the stolen truck traveling southbound on Washington State Route 167. Before police could even arrive at the scene, they received a second call. It was from a pickup truck driver who said that he was broken down on the left shoulder of State Route 167 in almost exactly the same area as the previous call. The man claimed that he had run out of gas. When officers arrived at the scene, they spoke with the pickup truck driver, later identified as 19-year-old Jesse Rodriguez.
He was that dumb.
Though the vehicle Rodriguez was driving was identical to the one that had been taken from the transportation company earlier that day, Rodriguez claimed that he had not stolen it and, in fact, worked for the company. To try and lend credibility to this claim, he was wearing a green reflective jacket with the company logo on it. Unfortunately for Rodriguez, not only was the employee who had initially seen him steal the truck able to identify him, but it turned out he had made one other crucial error that gave the crime away. See, it turned out that the pickup truck had not stalled on the highway because it was out of gas. It had done so because Rodriguez had put in the wrong type of fuel. The pickup was a diesel, but Rodriguez had pumped it full of unleaded gasoline. Rodriguez was arrested.
You seized up this motor and everything else and just fucking destroyed this motor because you just are an idiot. Like, how you gonna be a car thief and not even know what kind of shit you stealing, bro? Like,
Ranger reports eventually admitted to stealing the truck. Unfortunately, though, we weren't able to find any information about the charges or sentence he received in connection with the case.
Because he snitched on somebody else. He snitched on someone else to get off. That's how that works.
At one point or another in life, almost all of us have likely encountered a scenario where we've been told that there's no such thing as a stupid question. The spirit of this phrase is, of course, that curiosity is generally a positive attribute, that that we can only really make sense of the world around us by being inquisitive,
I feel like there's
and that we shouldn't be
circumstances.
afraid to look dumb so long as our questions are sincere. And while we would tend to agree with this sentiment for the most part,
Right, for the most
to
part.
use another popular phrase, it's also important to remember that there's a time and place for everything. This was apparently lost on one Michigan man who found out too late that sometimes you have to know when not to let your curiosity get the best of you. According to reports, the situation unfolded all the way back on one October evening in 1988, when a 21-year-old man named R.C. Gatelin stumbled across two Detroit police officers who were showing off some of their equipment to local children in a neighborhood on the city's east side. In particular, the officers were demonstrating how the electronic computer systems worked in their patrol cars. Intrigued by the technology, Gatelin asked the two men a few questions about the computers, wondering if he could get a demonstration of his own.
Be right back. Hold on, I gotta go grab go run and get my keys from one of my cars that was out being rented on Turo. So
the officers said no problem and asked Gatelin for his driver's license, which he happily handed over. While it's unclear exactly what Gatelin expected to happen next, when the officers entered his information...
Bro, he hella thought that he was about to call the police. They was about to come and give him some gas. Because most cops, I think, actually do, have some sort of gas canister or, situation. And really, why would you call the police and not like AAA or something, bruh? You could have called a tow yard. I know you probably ain't got no money, but you could have called anybody but the police. Call a friend. Hey, bro, I need you to come bring me some gas real quick. Anybody but you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to give, I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt and be like, yo, he was trying to use logic. And, police be having gas canisters. They'll come bring you 5 gallons of gas. But the reality is most cops aren't carrying around gas. That's dangerous. That's really dangerous. So, yeah. Anyways, moving on.
Into their system,
He's an idiot.
It immediately showed that he was wanted in connection with an armed robbery in St. Louis, Missouri,
of course he did.
that had taken place 2 years prior. Gatelin was arrested on the spot and taken to a local jail, where he was held until he could be extradited on the armed robbery charge.
He's an idiot, bro.
The suspect in this next story was allegedly so bad at stealing that even the local police department jokingly chastised him for making their job too easy. It all started.
Bro, when the cops gotta sit there and just acknowledge how easy you make their job, you're a dumb criminal. You deserve an award for the dumb criminals of the United States of America, or wherever this was. I'm assuming it was America. I'm just saying, because that pawn shop little sign, that looks real American right there. But I'm just saying, bro, it don't matter where you at. If the cops feel like you making their job too fucking easy, you need to find a new fucking job.
Around 4:30 p.m. on December 26th, 2016, when 32-year-old Dale Jonathan Tice walked into a pawn shop called the Hawk Shop in Marietta, Georgia. After pawning a $5 ratchet, the 32-year-old swiped a $200 military knife from the store's counter before fleeing the scene. Of course, since Tice had just pawned an item at the shop, this was anything but a well-thought-out crime. This was because in order to complete his pawn ticket...
he had to give his ID and his... Because they take all your information when you pawn shit. Oh, he's an idiot.
Tice had not only handed over his driver's license so that employees could take down his information, he had also given them his fingerprint. To top it all off, the pawn shop's surveillance cameras reportedly recorded footage of the entire crime taking place. This was so ridiculous to members of the local Marietta Police Department that when the crime was reported to them, they decided to have some fun with Tice and took to Facebook to jokingly chastise him and offer him some advice. The post read in part, quote, "Please at least try to hide. The judge has already signed the warrant. When you make it this easy, it takes all the fun out of chasing bad guys."
Facts. Oh, man.
Though this will likely come as a surprise to no one, it turned out that Tice was fairly easy to capture and was arrested just 10 hours later at a local motel.
Bro, do you see this? It says, fortunately for us, he turned out to be just as bad at hide and seek as he is at stealing. Like, nigga, like when the cops can clown on your ass like that, like that's one of them. Oh! Oh, moments right there. Oh, they got his ass. Got him. Like, God damn, nigga.
Got the arrest with a
Guy was
second
clowning
Facebook
that
post
ass.
announcing that the 32-year-old was in
Damn.
custody, stating that not only had they recovered the pawn shop's stolen property, but that Tice had also been found in possession of illegal drugs.
Of course, you have to
Provisional
be a drug
reports from
addict
the
to do
time,
some dumb shit
Tice
like
was
that.
subsequently slapped with 5 drug charges, as well as a misdemeanor shoplifting charge for the original offense.
It was like, here, we'll give you a misdemeanor on this one, and we'll give you the big boy charges on all this other shit you got. Thanks for making our job easy. We'll give you some leeway.
Forgery is one of those crimes that really runs the gamut in terms of complexity. Criminals can be so sophisticated that experts need second or third opinions. And in high-stakes markets like the art world, sometimes even high-end technology isn't enough to definitively weed out fakes.
Lots of
Then,
money.
on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you've got the guy in this next story. In the early morning hours of February 11th of this year, officers from Ontario's York Regional Police were conducting a ride stop in the city of Vaughan. For those unfamiliar, RIDE stands for Reduce Impaired Driving Everywhere, and is a program that's designed to combat drunk driving in the province of Ontario. Essentially, police set up checkpoints, usually on major roadways and highway on and off ramps, and stop and question all drivers who pass through these checkpoints. Anyone suspected of being intoxicated is administered a breathalyzer or roadside sobriety test. You get the idea.
Yeah, they're
Anyway,
just trying to catch people in the
At around
act.
12:40 a.m. that morning, officers at this checkpoint in Vaughan were stopping motorists as usual until a 49-year-old man from Scarborough pulled up. The good news was that the man wasn't drunk. The bad news was that he was on parole and he was breaking his curfew, which was a condition of his release.
What?
With their interest now piqued, police began taking a closer look at the man's vehicle and driving credentials, leading them to discover that he was driving without a
Fake-ass
license
license
and that his
plate?
rear license plate was stolen. However, both of these details paled in comparison to what officers found when they went to the front of the vehicle. A crudely made, hand-drawn license plate, which the man had made out of a sheet of paper and a blue marker.
Wow.
Presumably an attempt to match the stolen plate on the back of the vehicle. While it's safe to say that the 49-year-old's night was ruined, it appeared to be something of a highlight for the officers who stopped him. Shortly after the incident, the York Regional Police tweeted about the bizarre and amusing incident, sarcastically asking whether members of the public could spot the, quote, uncanny forgery, and jokingly adding, quote, they say artists create their best work when faced with tough circumstances.
Facts.
The
Ain't that the
49-year-old
fucking
Scarborough
truth?
man was subsequently slapped with numerous charges, including using a plate not authorized for a vehicle, driving without a license, failing to comply with a court order, and possession of property obtained by crime under $5,000.
No forgery of the plate? He didn't get no plate forgery? Like, fuck?
At one point or another, you've likely heard the cliche criminology phrase, the criminal always returns to the scene of the crime. While in practice, we all know that this is not the case, there are certain circumstances where it turns out to be true, including this next story, where the hapless criminals actually returned at the request of the would-be victim. It all started late on the night of August 11th, 2013, when a restaurant owner in Chicago's West Rogers Park neighborhood was confronted by two men, later identified as 39-year-old Mario Garcia and 28-year-old Domingo Garcia Hernandez. After storming into the owner's busy restaurant, Garcia and Hernandez demanded food. Apparently not intimidated by the men, which we can only guess was due to Hernandez's
Hold on, he said he demanded food. See, them niggas had the munchies, bro.
8-inch stature, the owner initially told the two men to go away, saying that he was too busy. That's when Hernandez pulled out what appeared to be a handgun, threatening to kill the restaurant owner if he didn't comply.
Munchies. He said, now, nigga.
For the safety of his restaurant patrons, but
Stomach's
apparently
eating my
still
fat.
not scared enough to cave to Garcia and Hernandez's demands, the restaurant owner tried a different tactic, telling the two robbers to come back in an hour. Amazingly, this worked, and Garcia and Hernandez left without any further issues. When they did, the owner called the police. Somehow still believing that they were in control of the situation, Garcia and Hernandez
Did they really
actually
come
returned
back?
to the West Rogers Park restaurant as promised an hour later, only to discover that the police were waiting for them. This time, the pair of would-be robbers had brought a metal bat with them, obviously anticipating having to make threats again. This was actually an upgrade from their previous weapon, as officers would later discover that the supposed gun Hernandez had initially threatened the restaurant owner with was actually a water pistol. In any case, as you might imagine, the two men were arrested,
it was.
and each was charged with 1 count of attempted aggravated robbery.
These niggas really tried to rob a place because they was got the munchies and shit. Fuck out of here. They're the dumbest niggas so far. Them the
As a
dumbest
fugitive from the
criminals
law, you would think that your top and really only priority would be avoiding police.
yet. Facts.
Well, apparently, that was not the case for one Arizona man who decided that he could somehow evade capture while also getting a job in law enforcement. According to reports, the incident began in October of 2016 when the financial services company Bank of America accused one of its employees, 32-year-old Alberto Lopez, of theft. According to the company, between July and September of that year, Lopez had stolen roughly $5,000 while working for them at one of their locations in Yavapai County, Arizona. However, when the accusations surfaced, Lopez abruptly quit his job and disappeared. Though the 32-year-old initially told police that he would speak with them regarding their investigation into the theft, he subsequently missed several appointments with detectives and stopped answering their phone calls. A warrant was put out by the Yavapai County Attorney's Office for Lopez's arrest.
Join the
But by
academy?
this point, it was too late. He had secretly moved to Phoenix and intended on remaining a fugitive from the law. While Lopez successfully managed to lay low for more than a year after being accused of the crime, it seems that somewhere along the way he either got reckless or just plain dumb. This resulted in his decision in December of 2017 to attempt a rather bizarre and inadvisable career change for someone in his situation. Namely, to put in a job application to be a dispatcher with the Cottonwood Police Department,
What?
a city in the same county where he was a wanted man. As you might imagine, being that the job entailed working for law enforcement, as part of the application process, all prospective candidates had a background.
Look, you know what? I can see where thought he was being smart. He was like, you know what? If I'm a dispatcher, if anytime any information goes through, like it's got to go through the dispatcher, so I can just kind of keep an eye, or not an eye, but like an ear on the situation back at the crib. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't think you have to be I think dispatchers. I don't know if that since it's all on the phone. I don't know that they actually have to be in the actual cities and states to do, like, I think there's actually companies that just do dispatching and, you know, work in like office buildings and shit. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not a dispatcher, so I'm not 100% sure if it's like you have to be in the state or whatever the case may be. But regardless, okay, he thought he was being slick, and he was not being slick.
Check run on them. During Lopez's background check, it revealed that he was currently wanted in connection with the bank theft case. Deciding that the stars couldn't have aligned any better for them, officers at the Cottonwood Police Department eagerly invited Lopez in for an interview. He showed up on January 4th, 2018, and was promptly placed under arrest. While reports from the time unfortunately don't give further details on what charges the 32-year-old was facing upon his arrest, Cottonwood police officials were clear about one thing: Lopez was out of the running for the dispatcher job.
Facts. Trying to pay a $1 million bill.
Though the final story on today's list is certainly short, we feel that it deserves its place in the top spot because perhaps more than any other case in this video, we really just cannot figure out how this suspect expected this crime to work. According to reports, it all started on November 17th, 2011, when 53-year-old Michael Fuller walked into a Walmart in the city of Lexington, North Carolina. After taking his time shopping around the place, he took his choice selection of items up to the checkout area, among them a microwave and a vacuum cleaner. The total came out to $476. However, when the time came to fork over the cash, Fuller handed over just a single bill. The denomination, $1 million.
What?
While it's not clear from reports how the cashier initially reacted after being handed the obviously fraudulent money, we imagine that they probably did a double take before wondering if they were on some sort of hidden camera prank show. Unfortunately, this was not the case, as it soon reportedly became clear to the multiple store employees that tried to deal with Fuller that he was dead serious.
Big bucks.
He continued to insist that the $1 million bill was real, even after being informed numerous times that the highest U.S. banknote in circulation was the 100. In fact, the highest note reportedly ever put into public circulation was only worth $10,000 and hadn't been made since 1969.
Look, see, yeah, I was like,
forgive us for reading way too far into what is, by all accounts, a completely absurd crime. But, like, what was Fuller expecting to happen here in the best case scenario? $999,000 worth of change?
Right.
In any case, the argument between Fuller and the Walmart staff predictably continued for some time until police arrived, at which point he was placed under arrest. According to the most recent reports we could find, he was charged with attempting to obtain property by false pretense and uttering a forged instrument. That brings us to the end.
That is wild. Shout out to Crime Zone, man. That is nuts. Like, how you, like, that is the dumbest one right there. He is by far the dumbest criminal yet. Like, this motherfucker brought in some play money and was like, here, I'm gonna pay for this candy bar and I need $999,999 back. Like, what, nigga? Oh, you an idiot, bro. You gotta be an idiot. I mean, he went to Walmart thinking, like, they're a Fortune 500 company. You know, they're worth billions of dollars. They'll have it. Like, it's just a measly $1 million. Like, get the fuck out of here, bro. You're an idiot. Oh, man. The stupidity levels are fucking wild. Anyways, man, y'all let me know what you thought about the dumb in the comments below. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.